So welcome everyone to Bespoke for the Bureau. And welcome to our viewers online. So you are in the Bureau of General Services Queer Division, which my partner Donnie Joachim and I, my name is Greg Newton, we co-founded this in 2012. We like to say that the Bureau is a government agency for a government that does not yet exist. And this is the service that we provide, holding this space for queer books and for queer culture. So thanks for coming out tonight. We are an all volunteer organization, so we do have a suggested donation of $10. There's cash in here. Give if you can, and if you can't, that's okay. And also, if money is tight and you want to support us, you can also hold on to that money and buy a book. That's a great way to support us as well. So I will leave that up to you. Readers, of course, you do not feel any pressure to donate. Pass that along. We are open Wednesdays through Sundays from 1 to 7, and then we stay open late on whenever we have an event like this. So please check out our calendar. We have a very busy calendar from now till the end of June. And if you'd like to be on our email list, you can sign up for that at the register, and you'll get an email every other Monday letting you know about our upcoming events and exhibitions. So that's it from me. I'm going to turn it over to Andrea from Bespoke, and we're going to get this party started. So thank you very much.
Hello. Thank you for coming. So we are Bespoke. We're an all queer, all genre reading series, and we're so excited to have our first, well, technically second, but first live event in New York since 2019. Made up of myself, NK Igu, you can wave, Iren Villaseñor, and C. Quintana, who isn't here, but is normally here. And a little background on where we are. As Greg said, we're at the Bureau of General Services Queer Division, which is an independent, all-queer, volunteer cultural center, bookstore, and event space. And we're so excited to be partnering with the Bureau, and all of tonight's donations, as Greg mentioned, are going to the Bureau itself. So you can also purchase works from some of the readers tonight who have books, and we'll clarify that later. And books from past readings too. So yeah, I'm going to introduce our first reader. SHAYLA LAWZ is a writer and interdisciplinary artist from Jersey City, New Jersey. Hey. She works at the intersection of text, sound, and performance, and has received fellowships from Cave Canem, Jack Jones Literary Arts, the Center for African American Poetry and Poetics, and the Digital Studies Center at Rutgers-Camden. Her work appears in McSweeney's Quarterly, Catapult, and the Poetry Project, among others. Her debut poetry collection, Speculation, N, was chosen by Ilya Kaminsky for the 2020 Autumn House Poetry Prize. She lives in Brooklyn and teaches in the Department of Humanities and Media Studies at Pratt. And her handle, social handle, is SHAYLA LAWZ. Please welcome SHAYLA.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome, and also the applause for Jersey City. Thank you everyone for having me. It's so lovely to be here, and also this is such a beautiful space. This is one of my first in-person readings since the beginning of the pandemic, so it's also really special in that way. Okay, so I'm reading some poems from a sign of the first reading. I'm reading some poems from my debut poetry collection, Speculation, which is here, and which is also, which I'm really happy that it's also here for you to look at as well. And I'll tell you a bit about the book. It is a collection of poetry and performance. And in it, I'm thinking about ideas of the spectacle, ideas of speculation, as far as the news media, particularly for images of Black queer folks, and what that means in terms of the Black psyche, how we internalize these images, but also how we can make new images in our work, in our writing, and how we're in community with each other, and what images we might imagine in terms of Black futurity. So I'll read a bit from that today. Can everyone hear me? All right.
Yeah.
Do the movement, so just speculation, the faculty or power of seeing, vision. Static TV, static body moving, no sound. TV, static body moving, no sound. Does anyone hear that? That sound? No one hear? Yeah. So, is it just me? Does anyone hear that? I don't want to continue reading. You don't hear that sound? Yeah, it's like a ringing.
They do, but I always hear a ringing.
I'm sorry. It's me. Sorry. I meant to turn this off before the event, but. Hello? Did I see the news? Was that me on the news? Was that me? There is a dream in which I turn off the news, yet it follows me. Through family, lovers, people on the street, by way of the telephone, the radio, even the blank screen on the television, and a song, in a photograph, in the mirror. That's where I see it the most, in the image staring right back at me. It is then looking into the glass at my own reflection that I begin to see myself everywhere. In store windows, in displays, at the mall, in car mirrors. I bend down when passing by a vehicle on the street just to take a look, a kind of checking in as if to say, yes, that is me walking by. I am not dead yet. Another Black man is killed by the police. I turn off the TV. I say, I am not dead yet. Sandra is found in her cell. I log off the internet. I say, I am not dead yet. A child is shot right in front of my house. I go to sleep shortly after the paramedics arrive, cradle my head into the soft pillow, and wake in a pool of my own water. I say, I'm not dead yet. But it's something like blood, and I can still hear the sound. He's dead. He's dead? They were all dead, but I was not dead yet. People were dying. I was alive. Was that you on the news? At a high frequency of sound, there is distortion. She calls me by my first name. Sometimes there is no bullet, no sharp object that travels through the skin. Sometimes death is silence, cushioned into the bone. I watched the videos over and over. I read the newspaper. I sat in front of the television for hours. For weeks, I did not close my eyes. Eric didn't scream as he was pushed to the ground. It was his body that said, stop, said, take your hands off me, said, I do not belong to you, said, I can breathe, just not like this. At night, I sink into my bed and wake up pressed between my mattress and the floor, and even that touch starts to feel good. Sometimes death is soft, sweet, like a lover, calls you by your first name, says, You can always come to me. Says, I need you. You love me. I know you want to touch me, but you ain't never been this close before. Body, static sound on a mirror calling, body, static sound on mirror calling. Speculation, conjecture, without evidence. When the flood came, I knew I was not alone. When the flood came, I found myself already underwater. They say you can prepare for this kind of thing, gather materials, cover the windows, make an architecture for the lost. And so I went out months in advance in search of materials. What do we need in case of disaster? Is it the sudden burst of need that makes it natural? I had been given a list of supplies, the same list that everyone gets when this kind of event happens, and none of it seemed sacred. Perhaps there are some things already given to us, a thing each time we were together. In the evenings, it was hard to separate. I had found myself in the water on late nights, kept by the sound of her voice, and in the dream by her touch, and in the morning under the mattress. I began each day submerged and thinking in reverse. How do you prepare for an absence? You can find love in other bodies. There was the boy who came in at night and left before morning. We stood in the mirror for moments, admiring how our shapes looked together. Then there was a time I looked past him and saw her shape in the mirror. And then the last time when his body disappeared. Who is it that decides what we need in an emergency? Is it the candle that keeps the light on in the house? Or perhaps what illuminates the mistake? I remember how his skin looked on his way out the door, how beautiful he looked leaving. Have you heard what they've been saying about you? No, I did not hear. Where were you when you heard the news? I was right here, and then I wasn't right here. I was right here. I was right, wasn't I? Right here, wasn't I? Body still, body still, body memory, static mirror, calling memory, static, body still, memory, static mirror, calling. Speculation, a spectacle. I've been seeing my body around. In the stairwell, in the house, and even at times in the mirror. In the news at times in the street, on the television screen, in the, behind the, and always face to face with the barrel of a, for seconds, and then for a time in the bed and all at once in the mattress. As the boy, at times as the girl, and even at times as the mother, as the sun at times as the dirt, in the soil, in the, on the front of the, but always remembered, face to face with the light of the, for seconds, and then for a time as the body all at once out. I saw her yesterday, and she looked nothing like herself, said the image. Light tuning, body, music, stars, light tuning stars, body, music, stars calling. 4 a.m. can be a devastating hour. The day, no matter what kind of day it was, is indisputably over. Almost instantaneously, a new day begins. And how will one bear it? Probably no better than one bore the day that is ending, possibly not as well. Moreover, a day is coming which one will not recall, that last day of one's life. And on that day, one will oneself become as irrecoverable as all the days that have passed. James Baldwin, Nothing Personal. 4 a.m. I awake some days believing the war is over. My body a missile shot through night cloud and the sun, a star cast into blue dawn. Some days this is all I want, to be the sky. I was dreaming up a life, dreaming up a mountain, dreaming myself out of bed. It was 4 a.m. when I realized that I was alive. One day already into the next. It's too late to die, I said. It is far too early. For the world. It was the year of keeping everything alive. Here we don't call out our pain, but somewhere in the dark we recognize truth is the only good light. Here it all looks magnificent. That dying, this living, this life, the last star, the first, it was all brilliant. Even the end when the world confessed its love for you. That night you opened a window and heard her say, please don't leave me. And here is where it all began. Here is where grief came to die. Here is where I have always loved you. "1993 from the stars. If today is my last day on earth, please just understand. All year, the world has been ending and beginning again. I don't know if I can take another combustion, another storm cloud. They say this is how it all began, as catastrophe. They say it was beautiful how it happened. First, she was just an atom of light, and then everything turned to dust, and suddenly we were all amber, made more brilliant by her glow. For so long, I've wanted to make a pageant of my grief, make a field of all the love I've yet to give, some kind of constellation. I've been trying, I promise, learning about accumulation, the potential of matter, what we can become when we're not alone. Every day I imagine what this life would look like if I could just see it too, be a witness. All these years I've wanted to survive. Today I want to be starlight. Tomorrow, something better. So if today is my last day on earth, please just understand, I only want to fly. And every night I have dreamed of this, of claiming my rightful place, of coming alive. You love me because I'm a star. Now let me go be who I am. Light, tuning body, music light, tuning body, music stars, calling stars, calling stars, calling. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Shayla. And if you want, you can go home with one of Shayla's books. I mean, with one of the books. Okay. Next, we have Nikki Palumbo, who is a writer, comedian, and Italian based in Brooklyn. Nikki currently writes TikToks for Barbie, yes, that one, and American Girl. Previously, Nikki wrote on the inaugural MTV TV Movie Awards Unscripted, hosted by Nikki Glazer, and worked as a story producer on the YouTube Originals weekly music show Released. Nikki has contributed writing to the New Yorker's Daily Shouts, McSweeney's Reductress, and the Google Assistant. And their social is Nikki Pal. Please welcome Nikki.
Hi, everybody. Say it back, thank you. Everybody. My name is Nikki Palumbo. Palumbo, my last name is Italian. I didn't have to tell you that. My little Mamma Mia hands do it for me. In Italian, Palumbo means peace pigeon. Peace like, and pigeon like, you're smart, I don't have to do that. I feel like had my family cook it a little bit longer, we could have gotten peace pigeon down to dove. A word we know. More about me, I use they, them pronouns, but I do respond to sir, ma'am, and sorry. On that note, I will read an open letter I wrote for McSweeney's to everyone who calls me sir. Please hold for room tone. Okay, great. Dear mostly women in airports, bathrooms, airport bathrooms, men on the street, subway, supermarket line, and my doctor that one time. Thank you for assuming my gender and respective colloquial greeting. Unfortunately, you guessed wrong. It happens. You thought it was a slam dunk, and I honestly can't blame you. On first, very quick, almost blind glance, you saw short hair, androgynous clothing, and end of list. And that was enough for you to know in your bones, yes, that's a man. If you'd looked just a little bit longer, but not any harder, you would have seen that I was indeed passing for a woman. A full face of makeup, earrings, and a softened body language I usually reserve for these public but confusing spaces in order to avoid these mistakes. But here we are. You saw what you saw, and you called me sir. And now you've put me in the awkward, for both of us, position of setting you straight. I have to look you in the eye and correct you by saying, I do not deserve that level of respect. I comport myself more as a, hey man, or yo buddy. And up until I cut my hair, I was just your run-of-the-mill move, lady. But sir, I mean, it's an honor to be nominated. But that's a privilege I am not qualified for. I can show you my resume where my experience ranges from young girl to teen girl to adult woman. References available upon request, but I'll warn you, my mom is also going to say that I'm her daughter. And what did you call her? What did he call you? Here's the thing, getting called sir doesn't bother me, but Nikki, you wrote a whole thing about it. Kind of seems like it bothers you. And that's a great point. Why address something if only to say, it's no big deal? Because it's not the act of being called sir that bothers me. It's the displacement of power and privilege in the whole social hierarchy. I'm a Capricorn. When I'm addressed as sir, I am bestowed a crown I'm not entitled to wear, and the balance of the universe is shifted. For a few seconds, I'm masquerading as a patriarchal king. It's only a few seconds because I invariably have to abdicate when you, the royal you, realize your mistake. At that moment, we're both unbalanced and unsure of what to do. You're embarrassed and I'm still a woman. So the emotional burden falls on me to say, don't worry about it. It happens all the time. Because I don't want you to feel awkward. And it does happen all the time. In places and with people I'd least expect it to happen. Doc, remember that time I was so sick, my voice was a little bit like this, and I didn't have the energy to put on any makeup because of aforementioned illness? You prescribed me 20 milligrams of prednisone because in your estimation, a big dude like me could handle it. You were right about my steroid tolerance, but not about my gender. I'm a medium lady at best. And I thought you, a medical professional, would have known that. But when I corrected you, you apologized and bolted out of the room like a little cartoon bunny, like I wanted to do. And I respect you for that, sir. But you dug your own social hole when you gave me more credit and cachet than you absolutely had to, and then left me holding the shovel to fill it back in again. And that's the part that bothers me. I have to clean up your messes of gendered misses. When it turns out I'm not the prince, I'm turned back into the basement sweeping Cinderella, not worthy of being invited to the ball. So in the future, please respect my wishes and do me this favor. Ignore me completely. Neutrally, Nikki. Thank you. That's that one. I went to the vet twice this week, 2 different cats. They're fine. I have high cholesterol. I don't know what that's about. So on that note, I want to read you instructions I left for my cat sitter. It's somewhere. Too many pockets. These are for blue light. 2015 vision. Instructions for my cat sitter. Welcome to my home. Sorry, our home. I obviously don't live here alone, otherwise why would you be here? I'd like to introduce you to my cat Frank, or as I lovingly refer to him, Francis, Frankenstein, Mr. Big Man, Stinky, Captain Stink, Big Stinko, Jonathan, Bubba Boy, President Stinkman, and Officer. He responds to none of them. Frank is super chill, so I doubt you'll need these instructions, but just in case, Frank eats 6 times a day. His schedule is as follows. 5 a.m., 9:30 a.m., noon, 4 p.m., 7 p.m., and midnight. If you're even a minute late for any of these, he projectile vomits everywhere because he's starving and he's never eaten before, and how could you do this to him? All of his cans are in the cabinet to the left of the stove. There are also cans in the cabinet to the right of the stove. Those are not his. I do not know who they belong to, but I think Frank does. Serve him either a full can, half can, quarter can, third can, or 1/16 can. You'll have to guess what he's in the mood for. This is his game and there are no hints. Leave it in his yellow bowl and do not make eye contact with him. He will refuse to eat it. That means he's happy. Frank adores sitting on the window ledge. No, not that one. No, not that one either. It's the one across the apartment in the office with the bird feeder set up outside. He loves to watch the birds. I think they're somehow his goons and they do his bidding outdoors. I can't be sure and I'll never ask. I'm no stooge. Frank is allowed to sit, sleep, stand, and breathe literally anywhere he wants. Nothing and nowhere is off limits. You should never leave the couch, except to feed Frank or leave, and even then make it quick. Frank is great at hiding. Do not look for him, it's a trap. Frank wants you to wear the long blonde wig in the coat closet. No, not that one. Please just do it. It triggers a memory from his past life and he's much calmer then. If I had to guess, he was married in that one and it reminds him of his wife. Frank loves to play. He'll tell you what, when, and how. I probably don't have to say this, but let him win. Frank is fastidious when it comes to cleanliness. Do not wear shoes in the house. Clean his litter box after every use. If you don't, I can't even bring myself to write it down. Just please do it. That's about it. Super easy, super chill. I think you and Frank are going to be inseparable after this week. And if not, I totally understand and we never have to talk about it again. Oh, right. Frank wanted me to tell you to eat this note once you've committed it to memory. We're a no evidence recycling household. Thank you so much. I hope we're still friends. Look, I'll be honest starting now. Over the past couple of years, I've really struggled with my gender identity. Like right now, I identify as a mess. But other days I identify as gender fluid, and that fluid is cold brew. Specifically with like orange simple syrup and tonic. This isn't a good joke, it's a great recipe. And now I'll do a seamless segue into my third piece. Yeah, right now I identify as bitextual, so I obviously wrote some poetry. This is a poem I wrote for my partner on our anniversary because, well, I was encouraged to want to. In the straightest restaurant we could find in Asbury Park, New Jersey, you asked me to, told me to, write you a poem. And I said, really? Here? I wrote this poem about this tiny notebook I picked up in a store I had no business being in, and said, oh, look how cute, I should get this. And my partner said at the exact same time as I did, for poetry, except she said it with a question mark and I said it with an exclamation point. And isn't punctuation the root of all female queer relationship problems? Like a period? Okay, here's the poem. Look at you, so compact and full of promise for all of my words. This is a poem I wrote about my partner because I noticed the last two poems could have made it seem like our relationship's bad. Like I'm a straight cis white male comedian and she's my wife at home that I hate. She's not. My partner is so supportive and encouraging. A few weeks ago, I enthusiastically shared some of my life and career goals. And she said verbatim, I'm happy to help you achieve those in whatever way I can. And so I said, why? Because I'm not used to love without a catch. Where's the fine print? The fast legalese at the end of the pharmaceutical commercial. But my partner's love has no side effects except joy and diarrhea because we both love cheese, but it doesn't love us back. This is a poem I wrote in case you think I'm smart. I love traveling and seeing the world and bringing back all my poop as a souvenir. This is a poem I wrote about being a hypochondriac in remission because I believe in astrology now. The pipeline is real. The other night I couldn't sleep, and instead of Googling the usual suspects like Diet Coke at 9 p.m. mistake, staring at screens for 16 hours a day bad, or have I been dehydrated for 34 years? Instead I searched, can the full moon affect your sleep? And what's crazy is, yes. This is a poem about coming out. Has anyone else come out multiple times to my 94-year-old Italian nonna? I don't know how else to tell her. The word gay in Italian is gay. You have to pronounce it homophobic. It's where the Pope live. Gay. The full sentence for I am gay is sono gay. Make it harder. Okay. This is a poem about this performance. Before I started, I should have told you that this is my drag persona. Paige Turner. Thank you.
Give it up again for Nikki. Yay. Is that okay? Okay. Our next reader is SAHAR ROMANI. She is a poet and educator. Her poems appear with the Academy of American Poets Poem a Day, Yale Review, Los Angeles Review, The Believer, Guernica, the Poetry Society of America, Adroit Journal, The Offing, The Margins, and elsewhere. She received support from Millay Arts and Hedgebrook for writing residencies, as well as fellowships from Asian American Writers Workshop, Poets House, and New York University, where she earned an MFA. She currently teaches expository writing as a clinical assistant professor at NYU, and her social is SAHAR ROMANI. Give it up for SAHAR.
Thank you. Thank you to the Bespoke organizers for gathering us here. And it's so great to hear your work, Shayla and Nikki and Dan. I'm looking forward to hearing you and that I get to share my work alongside you. And thank you to the Bureau. This is, yeah, it's so great to be here. Hi, everyone. In the pandemic, I entered into my 40s, and thank you, yeah. And I have some good friends actually who are here too, who started their 40th year. So I'm gonna read a poem called Fourth Decade. It's a zuihitsu, which is a Japanese form, which kind of comprises of loosely connected fragments. So this is called Fourth Decade. Days carousel, clumsy with worry. What else to do but show up for friends? Hello, loved ones. I come with apples. I heard somewhere that human cells regenerate every 7 years, head to toe, a new self, but that's a lie. On my right butt cheek, a birthmark, dark brown on light brown. Sometimes when I shower, I kiss my own shoulder without thinking. Why wait for someone else? I carry much from before, a scar below my lip, appetite for incense at sundown, a tendency to say yes when I mean no. The carton of organic milk in the fridge won't expire for another 2 months. Americans live longer and longer. Do I want a durable shelf life? On the podcast, a pop psychologist markets friendship as the latest public health intervention. Alone the other day, I ate a rotten blueberry and it tasted good. Perhaps it doesn't matter what's in my hands, but how my hands hold a flower stem, a pen, a lover's wrist. To have a past, not one, but two or more, and still feel you are beginning. Body flashes with announcements, a pop in my knee, a hiss down my wrist, percussions of doubt, pangs of faith. Doesn't the holy book say this is the era? And now she reaches full strength in the 40th year. Quran 46:15. Yes, I can hear you, body. Can you hear me? For the past few months, I've had the privilege and opportunity to travel, and it's felt really good to be able to do that and have the means to do that. Just to have that sensation to be decontextualized. So I thought I would read some poems that have to do with travel. This is called Revelation in Rome. Between ruins and shrines, I look longer at what I usually overlook. A stranger's face on a coin, water faucet in a cafe basement bathroom, knobless and bald. How to wash my hands in the basin of another country. At some point, I forgot intuition is an alibi for practice. Everything is learned, even The door, first night in Rome, my keys wouldn't latch the lock's throat, untutored angle of hands, and later boarding a train north, another tight-lipped door, I maneuvered across a memorial of minutes until a woman passed through first, easy as air. When obvious is unclear, it's bizarre. Or is it spiritual? Attention, how it ribbons on my way to the famous fountain, a name for every stone. Still, I take the wrong turn. Empty piazza, no water tumbling Baroque, just a newsstand, a bylane, small events I pass. Calcutta, midsummer. I found my body after moving east from west. I found a lover too, and desire for salted fruit mid-afternoon. I discovered I didn't need sleep as long as there was kissing. My tongue tasted a woman's neck for the first time, hip bone, belly button, and I realized I'm ticklish behind the knees. It was the era Kalhona Ho gushed across airwaves into bedroom windows, loose on everyone's lips. Tomorrow mattered less when I trusted the intuition of my pelvis. It was hot. I began to tuck a handkerchief in my back pocket. Sweat blossomed on my lashes, a gift from my lover who spoke in the third language, Brishti, Ami, Tumi, Esho. In the dark, I studied her lips. When I opened my mouth, I could only speak in the present tense. This next poem is called Afternoon in Andalusia, and I was thinking a lot about the prevalence of geometric design in Islamic architecture, so that's kind of the impulse. Afternoon in Andalusia. But why wouldn't geometry equal divinity? 1,000 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. What is faith but trust in one and infinity? Once in Granada, I studied a wall of polygons, or was it stars or bees, or for a second a flash of gladiolas in a field until I could see a galaxy, planets spinning, spokes on a wheel, clocks or buttons, vines blooming, a tornado from a future century, garden of ellipses, my lover's cornea, a light each morning, God so far away and right in front of me. Speaking of God and faith, it is the month of Ramadan. Lots of folks are fasting. I'm fasting. And, usually, every Ramadan is kind of different for me. But I've been noticing most often, it's really hard to write during Ramadan. So a couple years ago, I was like, oh, maybe I should just try to write a haiku a day. That could be a practice. So I'm gonna read some haiku, Ramadan haiku. I'm not gonna read 30, don't worry. I'll just read some. I don't have 30. I should have been writing more, and I was like, I should write more before the reading. Didn't happen. All right. 1. Top floor apartment spills with friends and friends, hot onion pakoras. 2. By noon, my breath is damp, hours dense with rain, the month still handsome and young. 3. Gummy-eyed pre-dawn, fried egg, buttered whole grain toast, half a banana. 5. When Abda sings, God is right here next to me on the crimson couch. 7. I stroke the torso of my phone, 10:10, 6:12, like a sad lover. 8. Fridge fattens with leftovers, yesterday's chickpeas next to Tuesday's beets. 9. Often I wear my fast as an amulet, but sometimes as dagger. 11. Don't forget to pray, texts my mother. This month, God is in a good mood. 13. On my love's birthday, exemptions, daytime sex, cherries, coffee. 14. Still, hunger appears, but head shaven and tongue-tied, watching me watch it. 17. At sunset, soupy noodles with friends under bright blue awning and rain. 18. Is it like a clear lake? More like a muddy pond or a tired creek. 20. Light-footed, light-limbed, light-headed, light-bellied, a light in my mouth. 21. IHOP parking lot, sycamores alight with dawn over pancakes, look. 23. Grenades hiss across another Sufi shrine lost, no sign of street cats. 26. By now the belly narrows its need, holds only what fits in my hand. 27. Side by side we march from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. 29. Sightings or science? Some mosques trust mathematics, while others the moon. And I'll read one more poem. I'm gonna read another Ramadan poem. First week of Ramadan is usually really rough because your body's adjusting. Last week of Ramadan, where we are right now, is also rough because it's like right there, it's almost over, but it's moving so slowly. So the middle is usually good. This is called Third Week of Ramadan. By then we were used to it. Mornings no longer found us in the kitchen, turning on the kettle. Breakfast was something people did on billboards or TV. We leaned less on promises of after dark kebabs or scoops of ice cream. Our hunger turned quiet, orderly, as if we knew what hunger was and what it was never supposed to be. A dull cold squeezed our ankles, burned in our ears. Nights stunted, we stole sleep on bus seats in front of computer screens. Hands moved offbeat. Weekends, we lay in bed under cream cotton sheets past edges of noon. But we didn't want days to dissolve unconsciously. We wanted to stand in our faint bodies, upright, awake. Watch the city hurry past our shoulders. We were too weak to keep up, but sometimes this allowed us to see. Thank you so much.
We're down to our last reader. Last but not least, Dan Shapiro is an HIV positive disabled poet and the author of a book of images and illness entitled Whole Play. His work has appeared in, and I just have to say, I'm not a poet, so I don't, if I've mispronounced any of these interesting places for other readers too, I'm sorry. Is it Lest or Lesty?
I don't even know.
Great. Okay, that makes me feel better. There's another one that's Bast. It's like the A and the E together.
I
So
also don't know.
great. That Bast Journal. First Stop Press, Feelings, No Issue, Paint Bucket, Protean Magazine, and elsewhere. Okay, those were easier. This book has been recommended and reviewed in the likes of POZ Magazine and Full Stop Magazine. Give it up for Dana.
Hi, everyone. Thank you to everyone at the Bureau and with Bespoke, and also thank you to Ren for inviting me to be here. Fun fact, I also don't really know how to pronounce the name of the press that my book was published in. So I can't really tell you where to get it. So this book, as you heard, is called Whole Play. Don't Google it on your work computer. You'll get some interesting things. Yeah, I'm just gonna get into it. No, I don't like that page. Okay. Water was as water saw. Pics of bloody rivers, boyfriends hang from my wall. At night, all birds become fish for indefensible reasons. I used to hold a camera, pointed at my friends in the sky. The hole in my sky, the sky, my hole, everything hurls everything. My boyfriend is a hurtful bird, so beautiful he burns an image, a hole in me. I fear all images might still conspire, breathe together to make a sick, salvific sense into me. Petrify me in the stone, cold light of your cock. Why should I/you tell you/me about a pain that I/you can just hurt you/me about? They always said, I was terrible in bed, Marilyn Monroe. This one's called Poem. The work is cold. The cold in turn works us. Each turning turns us once more to the left, here, right, now. Left we have but a finite amount of wonders, Victoria being one of the tallest and quite possibly most beautiful waterfalls in the world, of course. Everyone's friend is beautiful, but I am not everyone's friend. Brilliant, but not so beautiful. Greco giving head. I'm laughing in the ocean. I feel like a nomad. You would fuck me for this. Tell me you would. I do breathe my friends, truly so. It sucks when you just go. Take my breath away. I tell them it's like driving fresh flowers. I tell them it's like fresh into skull driving flowers. This one I didn't technically write. I just took a picture of my Google search history one time when I was in an intro language class. These were all the things I wanted to translate. Manifesto. I tend to take a shower, they say, ASMR, you have the plague, autoimmune disease, music falls away like water, quarantine. I want you to go get your life together. I recommend you lie, manifest, cough drops. I guess I didn't find a satisfactory translation from manifest. I am good at being sick. I am terrible at being alive. At night, I am better at lying than I am at being lied to. Lying awake, lying asleep, lying dead. They always said I was in bed. Moon listening. Do you hear the moon? Glistening to 22nd Century by Nina Simone. She sings of a great sweeping imminence, which is ironic knowing that imminence is not possible, only its negative and overwhelming sense of it having just before you occurred, though what it is remains indeterminate. A little Jewel makes no sense, tag it there all. At night, I grow closer to Nina. I grow closer to the window. Somewhere a man kisses me, and I am not there. The sky is a picture of being sorry. The sky is a picture of being sorry. I'll take it with my whole. My whole being sorry, Mom, the light asks me to close. Mom, I cannot close the light, the window, the flowers, as flowers whole in the dead, as flowers bore of our dead, deep, deep lost holes. Hello, I am Miss Walker with the health department and I need to reach you regarding the confidential matter. Please call me at redacted. Hello, I just tried calling. I was calling out. I will call you now. Image 8610, image 8609, image 8599, image 8606, image 8611, image 8601, image 8605, image 8600, image 8598. Thank you. Which one is your profile image / logo? Image 8597, of course. Okay, thank you. Image 8601. What is the profile name of this person with the sunglasses and hat on? He doesn't have one. He's DL. Okay, thank you. Also, my ex's number is redacted. I need the date of birth and other details, just like the same questions that I asked you earlier. Redacted, he's Latino, I don't know DOB, but 21, lives in the city, 5, 6-ish. First and last time you had a sexual encounter, etc. I think first was August 2018, last was December 2018. Where does he live? Did you use condoms? Do you remember all of the questions that I asked you? Please be specific in your response if you can. We didn't use condoms, but I think he was tested afterward and was negative. I topped him. He probably lives in Brooklyn now. He speaks English, correct? Were there any domestic violence concerns? He speaks English and no DV concerns. Any facial hair, etc.? I'm not sure anymore. He could have shaved. Good morning, Daniel. This is Mrs. Walker. We spoke yesterday. The person who goes between the two names, Korean guy. What borough does he live in and where did the encounter take place? The encounter was at their apartment in Brooklyn. Does he speak English? They do, yes. Okay, and the other people were met on the site called Grindr, correct? Yes. Okay, just wanted to clarify. Thank you for your cooperation. This next one's kind of hard to read. It's like a picture of a Post-it note that my dad wrote on like 7 years ago, but whatever. Nicholas Ramsey. I'm sorry, guys. I know this is fake, but I always stick to the safe side. I know I'm weird. If you stop reading this, you're gonna die. My name is Teresa Fidalgo. If you don't post this on 20 photos, I will sleep with you forever. This girl ignored and 29 days later, her mom died. I am real. You can search up on Google. But what could be more Christian Zionist than self-harm? I mean, what other gesture could so richly convey that I alone choose / am chosen / burning / sorry. March 27th. This is also Mariah Carey's birthday, by the way. I have not eaten, so drinking is the most efficient route to terror. Standing outside the cock and he's smoking a wet cigarette. Oh, by the way, I'm positive. I could have fucked his silence. I'm at the cock and will not be getting cocked tonight. Bouncer calls me babe and sends me off into the negative night. Dirty, cold, tired. The weather is a police dog I saw die once. Funny how February choreographs this ritual, agony, despair, eventual willful dependence, etc. Such that one is surprised to rise anew each day, simply like bread, paganite, no death mists, my foggy little head. It is not even March 27th and I'm already worried. I once fell in love with a boy simply because of the way he would piss in public parks. That's true. That was my first crush. And then it was downhill from there. In math, in love, a demon has no figure. I find it hard to have a dad. I find it hard to have a fist, to have a whole flower. A diamond hears my mirror image glancing along water, holds, bracing against. How am I doing on time? Okay. Just like sees me when the time is All Flowers in Time by Elizabeth Fraser and Jeff Buckley. Blowing you is like, oh, blowing the loneliest parenthesis alive, jerking off to funereal flowers plugging my hole. The first song you ever heard, son, was Pink. No, really, all tops are sad, sick, sick bastards. It's true, all tops, sick cops can fuck off to hell for all I care, time, same difference. This isn't to say that I do not hold a deep admiration for the reticular meshwork of the Venus flytrap. I always will. Your cock to fill, all ill, all sick with blood. I go mad at the blood. Red River goes mad at me. 40 days on this boat, and now you're asking if I think we're fools for love. What a goddamn outsy fucking moron. Fucking moron. Okay, so my editor is like my age. Okay, I'm 23. He wanted me to get rid of this poem title, but I think he just didn't recognize that it was a Britney Spears reference. So I was like, no, we're keeping it. I'm not a boy, not yet a boyfriend. It's funny. Okay, so now here's the poem. I thank you. I don't even know how to pronounce this press. Okay. My boyfriend is an HIV positive river. His beauty hurts a bit, like shit. You don't have to worry about bleeding a little while you're swimming within me. I actually kind of like it, he says, pushing my head back under the water, how to gather the breath to tell Miss Walker this. This one's also funny. It's called Poem in Language of Birds. So they finally arrived at the gates of heaven and the Lord says, are you bleeding or are you just happy to see me? I know my poetry, like my sex, needs work. But what is the point of poetry if not to infect? But wait, the poet has a tripartite theory. 1, a pinhole camera eats indiscriminately. All light bleeds into its hole, all loads accepted and unpreferred. We say photon when we meet lump sum, come dump of flash. Can you take it or not? 0 or 1. What Emily always wanted was 2 words, 2 wounds to work, utterly the same, burning. 2. Yet anguish and anxious, restless flutering persists. Saman, you tell me the Urdu Itztarab comes from the root to strike, hit, multiply, the self-same slab from which the Al-Andalus Arabic al-Madraba is cut, a place to strike, which came to signify the ritual hunting of tuna fish in the Spanish al-Madraba and Portuguese al-Madraba. At night, I watched 360p footage of Italian men harpooning tuna en route. 3. Then again, fuck the theory. Just know there's quite an impressive and rational logic behind my decision to bore a hole through my skull. I am perhaps stupid not to desire fascism, the force of beauty, all the time. If Y is equal to the unholy quantity of manly, or mainly, men in the world, and f of x equals the sum of x minus the sum of y, with x standing for the general population, then the function must be allergic to some discrete volumes of love or beauty. Then the chorus becomes a metonym for the sororal mode of tragedy that almost predates man, inviting the wrong to pluralize and partake in unending implosion of pain, joy, and faggotry. Pop music / math tells us that a diva always gets hurt, and I listen to Mariah Carey every day. Okay, this is my last one. Grand Concourse. What was it an old architect said? Everything we breathed was wrong, the was wrong, the story too tall, or remembered its limbs. Like being that kind of old New York paused in rings of light that orb you in a dripping blue permanence, all flowers in, all flowers in. How to incomplete the endless facts of us and light, and knowing that we'll never be that kind of cold, never quite so shivered, fluent in the silent, stilted tragedy of it. But still I pinion a glance to the white entablature of the sky. A wing aches to open another wing, or we can both be scrims, scales, scars, I don't care, drop, dreaming a line across the grand, extinguishing face, that is our sun. Warm regards, sincerely yours, Daniel. Thank you.
I think if we could do the Q&A, we'll do that.
Yeah.
So, okay, so if our readers don't mind coming up and answering a few questions that audience members may have, that would be great. for reading. So does anyone have a question? I have a question, so I will ask. I was curious, you're all writers, but you all also perform your writing out loud. And I was curious if for you, like, for example, Shayla, I feel like that was really part of the experience. And I'm curious if all of you, when you're writing, imagine it being read aloud, or imagine you reading it out loud, or just kind of what that is like if you feel a certain way about it. And that's for everyone, or for whoever wants to answer, I say.
I'll start.
Okay, great.
First, since I'm a person, I have to say that was so beautiful, everyone. So such a pleasure to read with you all. That's a wonderful question. I think there's a way, and also those of you who pick up the book and look inside, you'll see there's a kind of typography play too, that all of these elements are existing at once. And so for me, I approach storytelling from the point of what's the performance that's happening on the page for the reader, but also when we're in person, or when the reader's alone, also what is a story that can come off the page. So I look at performance as that too, as an opportunity to kind of, there's an interview I've been watching a lot, and that I watched a lot when making the book, which is from Douglas Kearney, who's familiar with his poetry and his performance work. Yes, class. And something he says is that, performance, or there are moments in performance where you can disarm the reader, where you can disarm the audience. And so I think about that, the phone element. And there are other elements that other audiences will see as a part of the book. But I think of those moments as opportunities to disarm, and you have to think about what do you want to place in that moment. And so when the readers or the audience is vulnerable, what can you insert in that space? And so I look at performance and like being here with you all as opportunities to do that. And so I look at that both like in the work alone, how might that manifest when someone's reading it alone, and also how might that activate in a public space? Like how can an audience reaction also do that as well?
Yeah, if you don't want to answer, you don't have to, but
My head's like blank.
that's fine. Then you can always pass. You can always pass on.
Shayla, I love that, the idea of how you're thinking about performance in person and how it sounds like shapes also what you're doing on the page, that kind of feedback loop. Yeah, that's really powerful. I think for me, as I'm someone who I don't think I identify as a performer, I really always say, I'm just reading poems because I feel that, that seems safer for me. And yet the act of reading aloud does, shape the way I'll think about how the poem is sounding to me and then what's going to actually happen on the page as well. So I do, when I'm writing, like to read my poems aloud to hear what's going on. Or before coming to this reading, I was reading some poems aloud. And as I was reading it, then you can hear like, oh, wait, just as an editing process. So it's a very private process, the reading aloud, but when I do it in public, I think it definitely is shaping then how I'm also feeling about the poem or what I'm hearing in it. So, yeah.
My mind is also blank, but that's never stopped me from That's a lie. I come from like a stand-up comedy like background. So all of my writing first draft is so overwrought, and then I'm like, you have to say this out loud. These are the words you chose. I love alliteration. It is not my friend. So my process is like constantly like saying it out loud. My partner has heard like every joke 300 times, is the co-writer on so many things where I'm like, how would a human say this? Because my brain goes like full computer mode sometimes, where it's like, I need to hit a word count. This is getting graded. And it's like, it's not. I should be having fun. So that's kind of, yeah, beautiful answer.
Great.
And I'm like,
Anyone have any queries? Yes, Iran.
Sure. What are you working on now for anyone, everyone?
Who would like to answer that? Great.
start it and we'll go back the other way, like a beautiful pendulum. Yeah, I've been like working on like building out like a half-hour set, but right now I'm working on a TV pilot called, of course, Lil Italy. It's Queer Sopranos meets New Girl. So that's what I've been writing. I get to like pitch it at like an Austin TV festival in a couple weeks. So yeah, it's my nonna, but legally it's not, but it's my nonna. Just like grappling with, she's forgetful, but she's not. She's like, Nicole, you have a boyfriend? It's like, babe, my girlfriend's sitting right here. Read the room. So yeah, I've like really caked that into a TV show.
Can't wait. I'm working on my first manuscript. So I feel like I've been, when I started writing seriously, I was just writing poems seriously. I was just kind of like writing one poem and another poem and another poem. And it's in the last year and a half that I'm suddenly being like, oh, I actually see something. And now I'm really thinking about, well, what else does it need? And how can I complicate it? What swerves perhaps can help, enrich it. So I'm doing that. And some of the poems that you heard are, gonna be in it.
I feel obligated to say this because one of my current professors is in the audience. I am working on getting my final paper. I'm trying to write about Dracula and say something that means something. Another thing I am working on is I try to get up every day and say, okay, you have to move at least 5 steps. And I've been trying to stick to that. So that's another really difficult task, almost a Herculean task I've been working on. As far as writing, yeah, that's it.
So this is the question where I'm like brain empty suddenly. But I've been working on getting out of the book into something else. And it feels like everything I've been creating is somehow I'm like, oh, that's about social media, that's about media, that can go into a book that is already physical, and I think now that it's out, it can no longer go into it. So I'm trying to figure out what's the next medium. And so I think essays have been something that I've been writing in, and they're less performative, and I like that in a way. You have to be kind of seen in a very vulnerable sense. So I've been working on that.
Anita.
I'm wondering about and you of course have all 4 already touched on this, but your identity as writers, like when did you come into yourself as a writer using that word, or coming out as that word, or identifying that way, and even sort of like the duty to that task, as you say, Herculean in some ways, for any task, but I'm wondering about that, like what responsibility you feel, or even like habits you feel you must build, when we all have like many identities and jobs floating around in space.
I can answer that. Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, I feel like I have a duty to write so that I don't like go postal, and like it's like, a very kind of like interpersonal, like I'm like, okay, if I get this down, it won't come out somewhere else. Also just being like, I don't know how to say that, I'm like not, but like even just like being kind of like crazy, like, and I mean that very seriously, like just in like a, like the voice that I kind of like assemble poetically is kind of me trying to figure out like, how do I distill my personality into something like not necessarily linear or whatever, But like, just like, how do I speak? Like, what is speaking? Like, what do I think? Because I think for me, the book, or just like the text, the page, whatever, is like a very kind of like prosthetic extension of like the stuff my brain and body don't do naturally. So it's, yeah, it's like a very kind of like compulsive outgrowth. Hot potato.
Right. In terms of the question of identity of being a writer, I feel like for me, for many years in my life, I would like carry a notebook and I would just kind of write, but I never thought of myself a writer, and I didn't feel like I was seriously writing. And I felt like, yeah, the notebook was just there, and it was about me and it, and maybe my partner and some friends, and that's where my poems would go. And in the world, I would do other things. And then it's in the last, 5, 6 years that I've been like, no, wait, what if I actually give this my full self, and really like try to show up to it and make myself vulnerable and really share it. So that has felt newer, and it's in that process, I think, that as I've become more public, that I have felt like, oh yeah, I am a writer, because maybe there is that kind of feedback loop too that you get. And in terms of the practices, I do feel that a more regular practice of just writing, regularly, whatever that looks like. It doesn't mean every day, but for me, it's as long as I am writing, I feel like, yes, this is what's more important. That more intimate practice, I think, feels like that's the one thing I don't want to let go of. The other things of like books or readings, like that all stuff can be in flux.
Okay, well, let's give another round of applause for all our readers. Co-hosts Iran and NK, who helped plan this event with me, and CQ, if you're watching, or even if you're not, our fourth co-host. Yeah, we're gonna have another event soon, but I don't know when. But you can follow us on Instagram at Bespoke Reading Series. I'm not allowed to have Instagram on my phone, so sometimes I forget the like handles, 'cause I'm crazy too. Okay, well, have a good night, everyone, and thank you again for coming.
Night, everyone.
Thank you.